Welcome back to the Alternative Highs podcast, the number one podcast in southwestern Ontario. A quick little PSA. I did some analytic reviews last week, and 85% of the viewers are not subscribed. So if you could hit that subscribe button, put a like on it, add a comment, it would be super appreciated. Today's podcast is super special. In my town, he is called the mayor, and to everybody else, Darren Canoff. Darren, welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate you for making the time to come on. I know you're an extremely busy man, so thank you.
Dustin, it's a pleasure to join you. I've watched some of your podcasts. It's exciting. I said, I can be part of this. You're making things happen here.
I really, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot to share in this community, and I want to try and bring the community together. Now this podcast is done on YouTube, so it's not all Chatham people, and I do talk about how people became. And one of my questions is, you haven't been mayor your entire life. What got you to this spot? Like, where does Darren Canoff start his career?
Well, that's a good question. I was born and raised in Chatham-Kent. So, and when I was a teenager, I'm thinking, I got to get out of this community. I got to leave. I'm never coming back. You know, it was the sentiment of all youth at that time. So I went to Laurier University, got a degree in business, and I moved to London. So I was working at KPMG, a CA firm. So I got my CA there. And again, swearing never, ever going to come back to Chatham, and ended up meeting my wife in London, and she was from Chatham as well. So it was it was a blind date. It was crazy that my brother's ex, she was working for her. So I ran into her, and she said, "Come on, please." So we met, and we ended up getting married, and we had 2 young kids at the time, 1 and 3. So we're looking and saying, I got this great offer in Chatham from a headhunter. Headhunter called and said, "We want you here." It was Union Gas. So I said, I'll just go to Chatham and I'll drive back and forth. So for 5 years, I drove back and forth from London to Chatham, saying never come back. Ended up coming back, the best thing I ever did. It's an absolutely amazing community. And it was one of those mindset things. Oh, there's nothing to do. You know, everybody talks about it. There's nothing to do. And
I've said it.
Yeah, we've all said it. And what a great place to raise kids, and there's so many great things about our community. So worked at Union Gas for 20 years, and left there and was a CFO for a company for a little while. Meanwhile, I was very, very engaged in the community. I was doing a lot of different things, got to know a lot of people. A lot of people started saying, "Why don't you run for council? Why don't you run for council?" I said, "Okay." So ran for council, got in, and then most of the way through the term there, I said, you know what, I'd love to be mayor. I think I can make a difference. So back in 2018, that's when I became mayor. So I've been mayor for 6 years now. I'm super stoked about Chatham-Kent. There's so much potential here. So it's a wonderful community. We're listed by U-Haul as one of the top places in Canada that people are moving to. And there's lots of reasons why. So excited about this community. You know, we all have challenges, and we can probably talk about some of those and the challenges. But there's a lot of great things going on here. When you want to hear good things about Chatham-Kent, ask somebody that just moved here, or that they see how wonderful it is here. If you're born and raised here, you have that same mentality I did. Oh, I can't wait to get out.
I actually, it's funny because I belong to the Y, and I often sit around there more than I work out in there. And I just people watch, and there's a lot of new people coming in, and we'll have that conversation, and everybody loves it here. It's got its highs, it's got its lows, and we only hear when it's the lows. Nobody likes to, applaud the highs for a lot of the time. But how is the community in your 6 years of How has it come together more? How do you feel about everything in the last 6 years? Because I've thought prior to that, to what I think it's you've done an excellent job. I'm a big fan of you. I like how you handle things. I like the way you engage the community. I really appreciate you. How do you feel about your job?
Well, certainly when I first became mayor, how do you become inclusive? How do you take all of Chatham-Kent, make us feel part of Chatham-Kent, not just part of a community that, because you go back to amalgamation back 25 plus years ago, people didn't want it. It was forced on us. So we're proceeding on, but it's getting out in all the communities, making sure that, and how do you break down the barriers? I'll use the Historical Society. We had all these different historical societies. We brought together a plaquing program that looks at all of Chatham-Kent. So all of Chatham-Kent sits at one table and is doing plaquing. That's the idea, is you break down barriers and become part of Chatham-Kent. Now we're all different communities, and we need to recognize that each community is different, but we're a community of communities, and together we're better together. We talked about how people want to move here, and we're very popular. That's the reason why, is because you've got the bigger city of Chatham, you got that type of living, but you've got country living, you've got various things. So the key is, and people will always look to say, oh, there's issues. There will always be issues.
100%.
And it's a matter of where do you focus, and do we move forward in saying, all right, there's lots of positive things. I could think of 1,000 positive things in the next hour. I could think of 1,000 negative things in the next hour. Each day we decide when we're going to get out of bed, what day we're going to have. But going back to just the Chatham-Kent, that's what we need to look at, is focus on a lot of the amazing things that are going on in Chatham-Kent and work together to fix those things that aren't working so well.
Yeah, and some of the things, and I mean, there's not, because it's literally everywhere, the homeless situation. How does one even tackle that when it's, because there's bylaws set in place, there's laws for the humans that live down there. How do you even approach that situation politely?
Well, no, and you just hit on the nail on the head. That is the biggest issue we face in Chatham-Kent. If you go back 5 years, it would be a hard challenge to say somebody who's homeless. I mean,
Pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID, you didn't see a lot of that. Now you're seeing a lot of it. And you're seeing a lot of that across the province and across the country. And there's a number of factors that have contributed to it, but ultimately people don't have houses. The affordability of houses, that when rent went 4 years ago, you could find a decent place for $500, $600, $700 a month. Now it's $1,200 a month, and if you're on social assistance, you're getting $700 a month total. How can you? That formula does not work. And people working 40 hours a week, they're trying to live on their own. It's tough. So we need to be creating affordable housing, but the reason it hasn't been fixed so far is because it's so complicated, the issue.
As I say, like, people think it's as easy as just go packing the people up, and where do they go from there? How do you go? There's laws in place. You can't just go pack them up, correct?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, that's recently there's some changes in that, but yeah, it's not as though we move this encampment, they're gone. No, they're going to move somewhere. They have to live somewhere. But how do we, as a community, as a society, deal with that? I mean, they have drug issues and mental health issues that they're dealing with. We need the federal government, the provincial government to step up significantly to help that. I mean, the bigger the city, the bigger the problem. You go to Toronto, the issues they're dealing with there. You go to London, they're dealing with significant issues. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homeless people. And how do you deal with it? Well, housing, one, is creating housing. Even if we had unlimited affordable housing, there's still putting people on the street because they can't live on their own. We need to provide services to help them live in a house.
How does that look overall for future? How do we get that to come together?
Well, we're lobbying the federal and provincial government significantly with that. I wish I could say there's a quick fix coming and we're gonna deal with it all. It's going to take a lot of money. First, to deal with the affordable housing, to get that under control, so that the people that have minimum wage jobs, they can afford to be in a place.
Absolutely.
That's where we need to be, is to stabilize that, and then we need to have programs that put in place that deal with the mental health that individuals have and the drug addictions. There's not nearly enough
I
of
was
that.
going to say, what is there, like how people, I don't know if you know much of my past. I'm a 6-year recovering drug addict and alcoholic myself. And then I was going through a car accident. I was trying to deal with certain things, and there isn't a lot of thing outreach for mental health, and it is a struggle because that will lead to the taking drugs unprescribed. It's a very bumpy road, and I think people put so much pressure on you or council or it's a community thing. Like it's something we all got to come together on.
That's the critical piece. Is we all need to come together. No one person or group is going to fix it alone. We as a community have to step up.
Yeah.
And all the community groups have to work together. The municipality has to work together. We need help from the federal and provincial governments to provide programs. We need to wrap around it because it is a major issue. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
100%. And that kind of, going back to the humanizing of you, that you came in right at the beginning of COVID, pretty close.
Pretty much, yes.
So that's murky waters that haven't been swam through. Like you're navigating yourself through there with the help of your team. How much of carrying that community weighs on your shoulders? Like people, always got an opinion of how you should do it better, but nobody comes.
Well,
how do you get through that? Because you seem to smile and you don't seem to get upset or insulted.
Well, because everybody has a different opinion. You and I can sit and debate 10 different things, and we're going to share some opinions, but we're going to have differences of opinions. And during COVID, certainly that really split up a lot of people. That everybody had a lot of time. Everybody dealt with mental health issues. We're all have been impacted through COVID in one way, shape, or form. But going there, we're social creatures by nature, and we were forced into cages, into our homes, into that. So you got a lot more time to think, to surf, to do those things, and to see the opportunity, as we talked about earlier. You can choose to find the positives, you can choose to find the negatives. During COVID, there was certainly a lot of negatives to find. And so dealing with that, the part of it is you have to look and saying what you believe is the best for the community, and look and saying, how do we get through this together? And you have to hear what's the negatives, but you can't focus on them. Focus on them, how do we fix things, but it's too easy to get pulled into that and have a frown on your face all day as opposed to a smile. And I'm a firm believer in positive thinking and those type of things. That's kind of what gets me through on a day-to-day basis. Is there's a lot of amazing things out there. There's a lot of amazing people out here.
100%. And that kind of will segue into the next. What do you think for Chatham-Kent? What is some of our top qualities that's so inviting to the outside person who's not from Chatham-Kent?
Well, certainly going back 5-6 years ago, we had some of the lowest priced housing in Ontario. Even when you look at the Northern Ontario, we had been declining in population for a number of years. Housing was, people started coming to Chatham-Kent because of the cost of living. They looked and said, wow, I can afford a house here. I can't afford a house in Toronto. The climate. We are the Florida of Canada, basically. So it's hard to look around now when you see the snow and stuff, but it is warmer here. It's better temperatures. I think the location's great. If you want to, if you need an NBA game or an NHL game, you're one way or the other, you get pretty close. There's shopping close by, but it's the quality. I look, it's the quality of life to say you can locate 5 minutes to work and drive 5 minutes. Where you go to Toronto, it's an hour. So you look and say, when you start factoring an hour each way to work, do the math on how much you've probably spent a full month of your life in the car.
100%.
So it's the quality of life. It's the cost of living here, but it ultimately boils down to the people. People are really amazing here. They're welcoming. We're down to earth here in Chatham-Kent. So when I talk to people that have come here, they talk about those other things, but they talk about how welcome people are. and the people. So if I was to say, to define what is the best thing about Chatham-Kent, there's so many, it's the people here. It's the, look at how many organizations, how many events go on in our community a year. Hundreds of events, and they're all driven by volunteers. Volunteerism is the backbone of Chatham-Kent. There's so many people that step up and give their most valuable resource, their time, to make Chatham-Kent better.
That's I like that. So, what's the future look like for you moving forward? What would you like to see done under your while you're mayor?
Well, we need to look forward, and I know in getting out, I talk to in a lot of schools, and the kids are saying that I'm asking them. I talk to dozens of classrooms, and a lot of times I'll start and say, how many people here, when they graduate, want to stay in Chatham-Kent? Hands go up. How many want to leave? There's a lot more hands going up that want to leave. So I spend a lot of time drilling into that. Why is it you want to leave? There's nothing to do and there's no jobs. Those were the two drivers of youth. So we've got the jobs, but we need things to do. And people want to move here. They can choose. If you're in Ontario, there's 443 other municipalities. You could have choices. So you're looking for that quality of life. Everyone's looking for where can be best for me.
What's the future of Chatham-Kent look like under you being the mayor?
Well, the critical piece is you've got 443 other municipalities that people can look at. We need to make a quality of life here. We can provide a house relative to the rest of the market, inexpensive. We can provide jobs. It's the arts, culture, and recreation. It's what are you going to do outside of that? That is what's going to make the difference for people. It's that culture. It's when you go out and you see public art. Is there things to do? Is there things every weekend you can go do? That's what we need to create, is that atmosphere. But also it creates an atmosphere you get out, socialize. It's from a mental health perspective, it's healthier. Public art, when you go out and you see something, you smile. That in itself is one of those statements. And I'll use an example like the lighting on the 3rd Street Bridge. When we redid the bridge, we put some lighting. And one lady was talking about, she says, I'm driving along and I just stop and I look and I smile. In Wallaceburg, when we put the lights up there, so many people, the same thing. I mean, you think it's lights, but it's that difference. It's the public art, it's the murals that were going up. They're going to be going across Chatham-Kent. I see public art. That's going to be just one thing. It just makes you feel better about the community. So it's those type of things moving forward that we need to provide things that people can do. Youth need things to do. The Flying Squirrel was a huge addition because kids said, I don't have anything to do. Now, if you haven't been to the Flying Squirrel, you need to go because it is a state-of-the-art facility, probably one of the nicest in Canada.
It's amazing.
So it's there now for kids, and we got those are the things that we need to create moving forward.
I was very impressed because growing up, we had the Wild Zone, and then afterwards there was nothing.
There was a huge void.
There was a void, and then we have what's the place out by the OPP station, the Fun Zone?
Yes. Well, that's not the fun. It's I should know the name, but yes, we got that. It's for smaller kids. What another great place.
Yeah, and we are stepping up to try and make it a lot better for a lot easier for kids to have something to do because that void was definitely noticed, and every year you'll have somebody pop that picture of the wheels. Always.
With the Flying Squirrel, I remember Don Tate were the owner of the building, and we were working with the Flying Squirrel to attract them. They have about 30 of them across North America. They're building a 150,000 square foot in Miami right now. I mean, they could have built in a lot of places. We were able to convince them that Chatham-Kent was the place. I mean, there's literally 1,000 other places because they're across North America that they could have built that are bigger cities and things. But they looked at Chatham-Kent and they said, this is a place we want to be. I mean, it certainly helped that we did a lot of marketing and working with them to ensure that, to let them know about the community. But ultimately, that's going to be a difference maker. That's going to be attracting people from Windsor, from London. But it's those type of things that we need in the community.
That's another good segue here. How do you... I asked Brock this, one of your councillors. How do you how do you get the attraction across to investors to come into Chatham? How do you get them to come and check it?
Well, see, that's the big thing is when investors are coming in, one of the first questions they ask is, what are you investing in the community? If you're not investing in the community, why should we? So that's when we start talking about the projects that we're investing in, the Bearline Park that we're putting all those things in, the downtown Chatham Center, the investment in a new library, new museum. We haven't had any major investments in Chatham-Kent in 30 years as far as infrastructure like that. But they're asking about that. But it's growth. We've experienced significant growth. We've grown 7,000 people in the last few years. The population should read on the sign 112,000 now, not 105. That's what industry is looking for. They need workers.
Yep.
So if we weren't growing, that's what we ran into. We had one employer came in and we were working a lot with them, and they finally came back and said, we don't think you can provide the workforce of 500 people that we need.
Interesting.
So that's, as we attract people, that's one of the pieces that there's a lot of excitement out there for Chatham-Kent right now. Now we're on a holding pattern with the tariffs and with the EV and all those different things. We're in a kind of a holding pattern, but there's a lot of people interested in coming to Chatham-Kent. But it's the positive vibes that we put out. The more negative vibes we put out, all it takes is you're a CEO of a company, you look and you start reading all the headlines of their negative. Well, I don't want to be part of that community.
Absolutely.
So again, going back to where are we focusing? I mean, I'm not going to say there's not negative things, there's not bad things, there is. We need to deal with them, but in order to market our community, in order to put it out there, we need to be positive. We need to put that messaging out that we are a welcoming community, and this is you, Business X, is the place you want to be because we can provide you employees. The employees will have lots of great things to do. It's affordable housing relative to the rest of the market. This is a place you want to be.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've been here. I grew up in a town called Richtown, and I did 30 some odd years there, and then I've been here for the last 8 or so, 7, and I just, like you just said, you have your choice of style of living, and I like it. It's not a massive city, but it's got everything that I need right here, and it's got beautiful shopping, awesome restaurants. I absolutely adore this place.
And that's you mentioned restaurants and shopping. As we grow, there's going to be more companies coming in and taking note and saying we need to locate here, a physical location. So you get more restaurants coming in. We've had in 2023 we had over 300 businesses start up in Chatham-Kent. We had over 200 in 24 start. So you got lots of new businesses starting, and a lot of those businesses are just they're starting from home. It's not all large,
it's
but
tough market.
But yeah, it's a very tough market. But we have lots of people coming here. We got 7,000 people and growing.
What do you think that number looks like over the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, if you extrapolate, we're 2% growth, and I believe this whole region is going to grow significantly, depending on the economics, the macroeconomics of what's going on around us. That 2%, you take that we would in 5 years we'd be probably sitting at 122,000, another 10,000 people, so 2,000 every year for the next 5 years.
And what would that look like? How do you scale that for your marketing in bringing, say, a bigger factory that employs 500 people?
Well, that's the thing is first they look to say, is it a growing community? Is it part of? Is that's what we ran into before? You're not a growing community, no. So growing community, and I see part of the next 5 years, you're going to see more industry coming here. There's going to be industry coming to Ontario. There with the major EV plants. Depending on where there's a lot of feeder plants that would love to locate in Chatham-Kent, and those create 20, 30, 40, 50 jobs. And we're certainly looking at the big ones that employ 500 plus, but we're looking at the smaller ones as well. So I'm excited because in the next 5 years, yes, you'll see more business. You're going to see more commercial, like Sephora. They decided to come here, but you're going to start to see more of those things that right now you might drive to Windsor, London for, more than when we start locating in Chatham-Kent because of the population growth, because of the vibe we're creating.
I like that. So I'm going to step away from this part of it now and go back to your life. So, as mayor for 6 years, how does wife handle things? How do the family, the kids, how does that affect your way of moving and shaking in this town?
Well, a big part of it is to try and get them involved. I know that when I became councillor and that I was very active in the community and worked very hard it was taking a lot of my time, but to engage the family and get them involved. So certainly my wife gets out to as many events as she can. She joins me. That she likes coming with me, and she doesn't. She likes having some downtime.
Yeah,
and a lot of times there is no downtime. So you're getting out, tying with the kids and stuff. So the family has learned to accept it. I've been part of doing it for over 10 years now.
I was going to say, what does a yearly schedule for you look like? How many nights home do you get?
Yeah, well, a typical week for me, I'll have 40 plus meetings, and it might be just a phone call, it might be this and that, with you right to board meetings, to council meetings, but just things like this. So this would be an appointment. I love doing stuff like this, getting out. I have 40 plus meetings during the summer. I think I've hit up maybe records of like 14 different events I've been to in a weekend. I mean, you can't go and stay hours at all of them, but you get out.
I literally see you everywhere. I'm always so impressed with you and your wife. I'm like, how do they do this?
Well, but the key, I love doing it, but the key is that those individuals that did event X, Y, or Z, they spent literally hundreds of hours organizing this event. The least I could do was spend an hour to come to their event, recognize it, support it, and say, thanks for doing this in Chatham-Kent, because you're making our community better each and every event that we do right across the community.
That is really amazing. And it's actually, there's something I'm a part of a charity that I would like to get Chatham heavily involved in on my way through from Windsor to Toronto. We'll talk about that off camera, so I don't set you up for anything. But Darren, I won't take up any more of your time. I appreciate you so much for coming.
Well, I appreciate you doing what you're doing, getting the message out. And in closing, we have a bright future in Chatham-Kent. And 100%. It's a matter of what we collectively as a community put into it. If we put a bunch of negative things into it, that's what we're going to get.
Yep.
If we move forward, work together and say, you know what, it's not perfect, but we're going to move together and make it better. That's the key to moving forward, because by doing that, more people are going to come here, more businesses, more manufacturers. We're going to create more jobs. Arts and culture and recreation, we're going to be increasing that. I want it to be where we can do most everything right in this community. There's going to be some things we have to drive but eventually grow to that point. But it's the get out and appreciate Chatham-Kent, support Canada. 100%. Get out. So there's a bright future here. I'm excited about it, and I'm hoping that people jump on board and say, let's make this community amazing, more amazing than it is now.
I'm with you 100%. You've got my full support.
Fantastic.
I appreciate everything you do. You do it very well, and it's a pleasure to watch you do such a great job, because you can watch others move and shake. I won't say names, but I like the fact of how you do things. I like.
Well, thank you.
It was my dad. He's a big fan of yours, and he said, Dustin, the guy cares about his community, loves his family, and he's just an all-around great guy. And we all see that in Darren Canoff. So I just wanted you to know that I appreciate you, Dad appreciates you, and the community loves you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I love Chatham-Kent, and we're going to make this. The future is awesome.
I love that. Okay, thank you.